Hey there. In today's video, I want to talk about the difference between suffering and growth and how it relates to dealing with pain. So, I want to start off by saying that you might see pain differently. Society says to avoid it, minimize it, numb it, optimize it away, but your brain can endure almost anything if it understands why. Two people experience identical trauma, one becomes stronger, the other falters. The difference isn't really resilience, it's not genetics, it's meaning. Here's an equation that I want to go over. Suffering equals pain over meaning. Pain is the raw input. Meaning is what makes it bearable or unbearable. When meaning is high, pain becomes tolerable, even transformative. When meaning approaches zero, suffering becomes infinite. I want to go over the study. So, Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz. He also happens to be the author of one of my favorite books of all time, Man's Search for Meaning, where he talks about his time as a prisoner. He documented something even the guards couldn't explain. Prisoners subjected to identical conditions had wildly different survival rates. Same starvation, same brutality, same loss. The ones who survived weren't the strongest physically, they were the ones who maintained purpose, a reason to endure tomorrow. The ones who lost their why died first, even when their bodies could have lasted longer. Frankl watched men give up the moment they stopped believing their suffering meant something. They'd sit down in the snow and refuse to get up, dead within hours. Others endured unimaginable pain because they were writing a book in their head, or imagining reuniting with family, or believing their survival would prove something about human dignity. Same pain, different meaning, life or death. Your brain works the same way right now, just with lower stakes. So let's move on to how your brain actually processes pain. Your nervous system doesn't experience suffering objectively. It experiences suffering through prediction and story. Every millisecond, your brain is generating a model of what should happen next. When reality matches the prediction, you feel safe. When reality violates that prediction, without explanation, you feel threat. Pain is a violation. Your body signals damage or danger. But your brain doesn't process the pain itself. It processes the story around the pain. A marathon runner at mile 20 is in severe distress. Muscles tearing, cardiovascular system maxed. By every measure, they're suffering. But their brain predicted this. It has a story. Mile 20 is supposed to hurt. The finish line is coming. This pain is temporary and purposeful. Prediction met. Narrative intact, suffering stays manageable. Now take someone in chronic pain with no diagnosis, same intensity, but no story, no timeline, no reason. Their brain generates prediction error constantly. Why does this hurt? When will it stop? What's wrong with me? Every unanswered question amplifies the threat signal. Prediction violated, narrative collapse. Suffering becomes unbearable. Context changes everything. A boxer getting punched in the ring versus getting jumped on the street. Same physical damage, completely different psychological experience. Childbirth versus chronic illness. Both agonizing. One is endurable because it has meaning and an endpoint. The other breaks people because it doesn't. So what is the meaning-making machine? That's actually your brain. Your brain is constantly building explanatory models. When something bad happens, it immediately asks, why did this happen? What does this mean about me? Is this temporary or permanent? Is this specific or global? These aren't conscious thoughts. They're subconscious inference patterns running in real time. The quality of those inferences determines whether pain becomes growth or trauma. Someone loses their job, person A thinks I'm not good enough, I'll never make it. Person B thinks I need different skills or a better fit, time to adjust. Same event, different meaning structure. Person A just turned pain into identity, they'll carry that story into every future opportunity. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Person B turned pain into data, they'll iterate and grow. When your brain assigns adaptive meaning, it releases dopamine and endorphins, neurochemicals that help you endure and learn. When your brain assigns maladaptive meaning, it floods you with cortisol, stress hormones that amplify suffering and accelerate breakdown. Meaningless pain doesn't just feel worse. It is worse, biologically. Now let's go into why comfortable lives feel empty. The safer your life gets, the more fragile you become. When you remove all discomfort, you don't build peace. You build hypersensitivity to friction. Pain tolerance is like a muscle, use dependent. If you don't train it, it atrophies. People in objectively comfortable circumstances often report the highest anxiety and depression. They've optimized for ease so aggressively that minor challenges feel catastrophic. A critical email feels like a crisis, a delayed flight feels unbearable, a difficult conversation feels impossible. Not because these things are objectively hard, because their nervous system has no reference point for discomfort. Meanwhile, people who've endured real hardship, often having a higher baseline for resilience. Not because they're genetically tougher, because they've built a tolerance through exposure. They've proved to themselves that they can handle hard things. That proof becomes the foundation for everything else. Avoiding pain doesn't make life easier, it makes you weaker. When life inevitably delivers something difficult, you shatter, you falter. Not because the challenge was too big, because you're too fragile. Now let's talk about the 3 types of pain. Not all pain is equal. Your brain categorizes suffering based on whether it's productive or destructive. Let's talk about growth pain. This is learning a new skill, physical training, hard conversations that build trust. Your nervous system recognizes this as productive. It hurts, but the prediction model includes a reward: expanded capability, increased strength, deeper connections. Your brain releases dopamine during the struggle, not just after, because it's tracking progress towards something valued. Most people avoid growth pain. They optimize for comfort, and in doing so, they atrophy. Growth pain is the only pain that compounds positively. Every rep builds capacity, every hard conversation builds resilience. Now let's talk about maintenance pain. This is when you show up even when motivation is gone. Discipline when no one's watching. The repetition required to not slide backward. Your nervous system doesn't really reward this as much. There's no dopamine, there's no visible progress just yet. This is where you really see sort of delayed gratification. Just a quiet work of holding ground. Maintenance is harder than growth. Growth feels like winning. Maintenance feels like treading water. But without it, everything decays. Your fitness, your relationships, your standards. Most people quit here. They mistake the absence of reward for the absence of value. And then lastly, let's go into meaningless pain. These are your toxic relationships, your dead-end jobs. This is chronic stress with no resolution. Suffering that extracts without building. Your nervous system has no model for this. It can't predict when it ends. It can't extract learning. It can't find upside. So it treats it as an existential threat. And if it continues long enough, it breaks you. Not because you're weak, because your brain is designed to endure pain with meaning, not pain without. The people who stay stuck aren't dumb. They're trapped in category 3, mistaking endurance for virtue. Now let's talk about learned helplessness. Martin Seligman discovered something disturbing in the 1960s. He subjected dogs to random, uncontrollable shocks. No pattern, no escape, no reason. The dogs just stopped trying to escape. Even when escape became possible later, they learned their actions didn't really matter, so they gave up. Humans, and you can probably attest to this, do the same thing in meaningless suffering. When pain has no explanation, your brain stops generating agency. It stops believing action leads to outcome. You enter a passive state where suffering just happens to you. Once you're in that state, even opportunities to escape feel impossible because your prediction model has collapsed. Nothing I do matters, this is just how it is. People stay in terrible jobs, toxic relationships, destructive patterns, not because they want to, because they've lost the narrative thread connecting action to change. The pain has no story, so their brain stops trying to write. So how do you reframe in real time? The fastest way to make pain useful is to give it a clear purpose. Your brain doesn't need the pain to stop. It needs to understand what the pain is for. When you're in the middle of something difficult, ask one question. What is this building? Not vague answers, specific concrete outcomes. This workout is building strength so I feel capable. This conversation is building trust so that the relationship can deepen. This project is building skills so I can create leverage. The moment you answer clearly, your nervous system shifts. It stops processing pain as a random threat. It starts processing it as a productive signal. Your brain releases the neurochemicals that help you endure. Dopamine for motivation, endorphins for tolerance. You don't eliminate the pain, you give it a frame. Now this leads into meaning and meaning discovery. You don't find meaning in suffering, you assign it. 2 people get rejected. Person A says, I'm unlovable, no one will ever want me. Person B says, that wasn't the right fit, I'll find someone who is. Same pain, different story, completely different trajectory. The person who constructs adaptive meaning uses pain as feedback. They iterate, they grow. The person who constructs maladaptive meaning uses pain as identity. They calcify, they break. And before you think I'm preaching toxic positivity, I'm not. If you're in a toxic job and telling yourself this is building character, you're lying. If you're in a toxic relationship and you're saying, I'm staying because this is all worth it, you're lying to yourself too. That's not meaning, that's rationalization. Real meaning requires honest assessment. Is this pain productive or destructive? Is this building capacity or draining it? Is this temporary discomfort or chronic dysfunction? If the pain is growth or maintenance, assign meaning and push through. If the pain is meaningless, cut it and move on. Now, let's talk about the evolutionary logic. Your brain evolved this way for survival. Our ancestors faced constant pain, injury, predators, starvation, but not all pain was equal. Pain from hunting meant food. Pain from childbirth meant offspring. Pain from conflict meant territory or status. Pain with payoff was adaptive. Your genes selected for the ability to endure it. Pain without payoff was maladaptive. Random violence, illness with no cure, trauma with no resolution. Your nervous system evolved to distinguish between these categories through meaning. When pain predicts reward, you endure. When pain predicts nothing, you collapse. Your brain still asks the same evolutionary question today. Is this suffering moving me towards survival, or is it just damage? If your brain can't answer, it assumes the worst. So what can you really do about pain? What actions can you take? First, let's go through auditing your suffering. Look at every area where you're in pain right now. Ask yourself, is this growth pain? Is this maintenance pain? Is it meaningless pain? Growth pain should be sought. It's building something. Maintenance pain should be accepted. It's protecting what you've built. Meaningless pain, any meaningless pain should be eliminated. It's just draining you. Most people avoid the first two and tolerate the third. That's why they stay stuck. Now, after that, let's build the frame. For every hard thing you're doing, write one sentence answering, what is this building? Make it concrete, make it true, make it matter. When your brain has a clear answer, the pain becomes bearable, sometimes even energizing. Without that answer, the same pain becomes unbearable. So now let's talk about training your tolerance. Once a week, seek discomfort deliberately. Cold plunge, hard conversation, pushing hard for that one extra mile or rep. To suffer for suffering's sake, to prove to yourself that you can handle it. Every time you face discomfort and survive, your tolerance expands. The more you expand it, the less life can break you. Ending it off, let's do a review. Pain divided by meaning equals suffering. When pain is high, pain is tolerable. When meaning is zero, pain becomes unbearable. The brain processes pain through prediction and story. Pain that has explanation is endurable. Pain without story amplifies into trauma. Growth pain builds you. Maintenance pain sustains you. Meaningless pain breaks you. Most people avoid the first two and tolerate the third. Comfortable lives don't build peace. They build fragility. Pain tolerance is use dependent. Train it or lose it. Lastly, meaning isn't discovered. It's constructed. You assign the story. The quality of that story determines whether pain destroys you or builds you. I want to leave off this video with going over actions. Talked about this earlier. There is audit, frame, and train. For audit, list every area where you're in pain. Label it. Growth, maintenance, or meaningless. Cut the meaningless, lean into the rest. Frame. For every hard thing, write what it's building. One clear sentence, concrete outcome. Lastly, train. Once a week, do something uncomfortable on purpose. Prove you can handle more than you think. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video all the way through. If you like this video, click on subscribe because I will be creating more of these videos. If you have any thoughts, any opinions, any violent reactions, comment them down below. Love having productive conversations with any of you. Thanks again for watching and see you in the next one.